recording. I don't care. I'll edit it out, but I'm already on. So go.
Oh, you don't want to edit, do you?
Oh, it only takes a second. I think I have to go off and on anyways. So I don't give a shit.
Okay.
Well, fine. This is how it starts then.
This is how it starts.
So this is how it starts.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
Why, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. And we have a lovely show for you today because we have our good friend Mitch Wettle with us.
Howdy.
Howdy. We always love former distiller, former cooper, sommelier. I can keep going, but we won't get through the fucking show. But we love his opinions and his background. So, Mitch, thank you for being here. Mike, how is your weekend going right now?
It's fine. I'm taking a break from doing some remodeling, so it's all good.
Oh, everyone's doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were talking pre-show.
Tis the season.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think everyone here is doing some remodeling right now on the show. So, just a well-needed break. Mike, do you want to go over our lovely friendship at the Bar Cart Co-op?
Okay, are you gonna navigate? You want me to do
I'll
it?
Navigate.
Okay, you navigate. We are a proud member of the Bar Cart Co-op, which is a hive mind of like-minded individuals with their own individual shows, but all with the philosophy of rising tide raises all ships. Some of those shows that are on there include the Granddaddy Distiller's Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson, which is a really deep nerd dive with distillers and industry people. It is the conversations that you only have over a drink where you can just really get into it, and they get thick in the weeds because Alan has so much. Oh, well, you're skipping ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. All right. No. So the classiest show on the whole bar cart is Bourbon Turntable with Kevin Rose and Drew Crowley, and they do the love of music and the love of whiskey. They've had some fantastic interviews, some really great 2-part interviews with names such as Nancy Fraley and Steve Gorman, and they've had bands on there such as Sweet Lady and Cold Stairs. And they've had Mr. Jason Bronner on there a couple times. Many other people. We've been guests in the past as well. But definitely check them out. That show comes out Wednesdays. And back to Alan, because Alan doesn't sleep. He has the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where he answers all of your distillation questions and also will try things out for you. It's really cool if you want to find things out. He's taking questions from, well, really all over the world and putting things to the test. And then finally, if you don't want to sleep because you can't sleep, if you have ghosts, you have everything, which just covers the paranormal, not just in distilleries and distillation history, but just in general. It's very fascinating. There's some really interesting things, but they've also gotten into some of the historical things, like recently did, really who was Santa Claus? And that was actually, it was really interesting. And as Alan has said on his show, even if only 5% of the things that he talks about are true, that's still a lot. So it's that one you can find on Spotify. Everything else you can find on Spotify, YouTube, etc.
Yes, excellent. Glad you got that out of the way. Sorry, we had to do that, folks. But
gotta pay the bills.
Gotta pay the bills. But today we're gonna go over 3 whiskeys and review them. First one, we want to do Old Pepper or Great Northern first.
Mitch?
I'm going to be honest. I started off with we'll yield to Mitch.
Pepper's a little lower proof, so let's start with that if you don't mind.
All right.
Ooh, just smidgens.
Smidge, like literally barely.
All right.
He's not wrong.
He's not
I'm
wrong.
not wrong. Technically correct. The best.
The numbers don't lie, Patrick.
That is true. This is actually from a single barrel, 4241, aged 5 years. Comes in at 60.8% alcohol, bottled by James Pepper in Lexington, Kentucky. So let's see here. 60. That's what I meant by 60.8. So it's not like we're starting off slow this evening. I like this. When the low one of the night is breaking 60.
Yeah. So I will say a couple things about Old Pepper, the distillery. I know they were sourcing from MGP as well as, oh my gosh, the new one in Kentucky that sources everything. My brain just shut off. The Bardstown Bourbon Company. There we go. As well as making their own stuff. And they started in 2017, so this could technically be theirs. But
That'd be interesting. Let's see. Well, sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
I'm done now.
Hold on. If I pause it in the background at the moment, I hear someone having a battle, and I don't want that to carry over into the background noise. So I don't know if you've been hearing that or not yet. So
Good luck.
yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't spill over into the porch, but we'll see.
Well, yeah. My son is elderly dog, so whenever he wants to battle, I just put him outside.
You should take that advice, Patrick.
Get an elderly dog.
No, just put the boy outside.
Yeah, but I'm on the back porch, so it's just going to be even more racket.
Just
Come
give
on
him a
from
stick
outside.
and tell him to hit things.
Exactly.
That was my favorite thing to do as a kid, right?
He did get a lightsaber today. From
See?
yeah.
Okay. Do you have a lightsaber also?
I have an old one, but I don't think it works quite as well. I think it got whacked and broken.
I have a lightsaber.
Well,
Yeah. We have multiple. I've even got a dark saber.
Well,
Dude, you can never have too many lightsabers.
Well, my nephew and I had one, and since it's so cold here on Christmas, the day we got him when it was 2 degrees out, we were fighting through the snowbanks, and like 30, 45 minutes later, once they had frozen up completely, one big swing, and I shattered his into like a million pieces.
When my son's 23 now, so when he was little, that was the time that the second trilogy was coming out. And so we rigged him up because we had enough lightsabers that I would either pinch, because I could do it, pinch the handle between my toes, or attach them to my toes. So then I had 4 of them, and I was General Grievous.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
I could not spin and chase like he could, but I had 4 lightsabers.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Maybe you should have that OnlyFans page instead of
Things I can pick up with my toes.
So I went up to Patoka Lake over the holidays as kind of a Christmas present to my girlfriend, where Jolie works now. And I wanted to bring a Christmas present, and I was like, okay, I need help with this. And my girlfriend was like, okay, what do you need? I was like, I need you to take pictures of my feet. And she was like, not sure where this is going, but I don't know if I want to be along for the ride. I was like, no, it's a joke. It's a joke. It'll be hilarious. And she's like, I'm still not really all in on this. So Jolie did not get a Christmas present.
Okay.
There's a split second where Old Pepper almost came out my nose. Excuse me. Okay. We'll get back into the review in a minute. Sorry to get off topic there. It's beginning to a weekend. Okay. I get like a little... Definitely, I'm getting more of like my big note. After all, I think is like vanilla. Like I'm getting other stuff, but I think for me that's, I don't know, vanilla cocoa powder, like Nesquik cocoa powder.
So for me, I'm getting a lot of dill like no licorice, which is kind of wild. That vanilla you're talking about, a little bit of cinnamon.
What's wrong with me? Hold on.
But then again, I just had chicken noodle soup and grilled cheese. So
No, that's what I was gonna say.
probably
That's why we have people on the show, is to get everyone's different opinions, because some of them are different, and you can have different, a different profile by what you ate, like just what you said. So I had that.
Yeah, and I just ate, unfortunately.
Okay. I get definitely more of the spice and a little bit of the heat on the back end. It doesn't drink overly hot for me. I would have guessed maybe 10 points lower, maybe 50.
So for me, it numbed my gums when I took a big sip. So I would have called this pretty high proof, but it is different from the nose. Like I picked up a little more licorice when I first sipped it, and then the finish was dill with a couple other notes in the middle there. I was just really surprised that I didn't get dill right off the bat. So
it wasn't heavy but on the finish, I'm getting more of it, even if it's had a little swallow of water. Like the very back part of my mouth or my throat is where I'm getting a little bit of that now. I just didn't have a big enough sip the first time.
Always take big sips. So on the nose, I still get, which I mentioned earlier, on the nose, I get like the Good and Plenty candy and a lot of alcohol, vanilla, and I get cinnamon. But then on the palate, it's just like real quick burst of vanilla, and then a lot of cinnamon, and then a massive hit of proof. And then it just fades into the finish. And it's got a decently long finish. But I'm trying to decide, but it's kind of vanilla-y and kind of apricot-y. So I don't know. It's just, but not a lot. I mean, not a lot of apricot. It's more vanilla, and it's just kind of, there's a little citrus thing at the end, and usually rye. If I get some, I might get a little apricot more than something else. But
I get a little bit of the citrus, but on the finish, I'm getting like a little like spearmint, or at least maybe that's with the alcohol in there. You know how you breathe and open it up when you have that. That's kind of what I'm getting on the finish the longer it goes here for me.
Yeah, I don't get any mint.
See,
I get mint.
This is my first drink of the day.
Well, I took a big drink of something else, and then I walked. I took a huge water, and then I started on this. So I didn't know how far off, if I had already tainted myself or how.
This is my first drink of the week, so this might be rough. But yeah, for me, the finish is kind of wood and mint. I get a really nice kind of that oak lactone, just oaky, not quite char, not quite toast, just kind of, if you've ever chewed on a piece of oak that has been dried, so you're not just chewing on a stick, that if you work at a cooperage, you do it all the time. If you don't, it's probably a very esoteric tasting note, but like it's a combination of those two things, right? Mint and dried oak.
Yeah.
Okay. When your partner puts the bit in your mouth and the harness,
Really,
we've all been there.
Ask The Rock about that. He's very touchy. No, but you're exactly right with the like the tannic, like it's like a little bit of like a tannic spearmint for me on the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm actually on that part. That's where I'm getting a little bit more of the numbing part, is on the finish, is where that really is. Kind of pulls through, almost goes from the back forward.
So for me, it's I've not had a Good and Plenty because I'm not a huge licorice fan. So I just say licorice. It's a hit of licorice, and then proof kind of like starts to wash that away to transition to baking spices. And then it's weird because that kind of spearmint oak does a little bit what Patrick was saying, where it kind of starts off softly and then just kind of
Mhm.
builds up as the finish goes before it starts to fade again. Which, that's a fun ride in my opinion, right? Like,
It's unexpected. You know, maybe it should be at 60, but for me, I wasn't quite thinking that. So, all right,
see what-
not bad. Like I said, there was a little acetonic edge in there for like a second.
I had
Where it
no
tra- where it
expectations
trans-
on it.
Huh?
I had no expectations on this.
Mhm.
I wish the finish was more, especially given that proof.
So it had like a titch of chocolate in the finish.
Oh, see, now you're talking.
Well, I mean,
But,
with the spearmint and the other. Oh,
Yeah, no, I don't get the mint. I mean, I don't get the mint or anything, but I just mean the proof, just the way that, or the proof, the finish. You know, say I get the vanilla and citrus, and then there was like a pepper finish, but then it just kind of lays there for me. It doesn't linger on, doesn't really do anything for me. Up until then, I thought it was fine. I was just, I kind of expected more, but it's fine.
So I added a little bit of water. It kills the licorice, accentuates the baking spices, and the finish seems pretty similar. But it also it takes out that kind of proofy bite. So instead of, for me, starting licorice, hitting proof, then baking spices, just starts baking spices.
Okay. I got probably a little too much in this one, but
Yeah. I took it down further than I meant to. I probably got it around 100 proof.
I'm gonna say at 45 because I was a little more heavy-handed than I should have been. But there, I don't get.
See, there with water, I get a little mint coming out.
And for me, it turns a little more sugary. How far I went down, it gets like this sugar water kind of dip. There. Ooh, I'll play with this later. I don't want to make it a show. I was like, I got like a little agave. No. I love doing that, but I don't want to get lost in like here. We drank this whole bottle in the first half hour. Yeah, because if I went too far, I'm getting like this creaminess now to it.
I mean, if you like it, it's not too far. Right? Just like that gag.
All right, here. Let's switch over to the Great Northern Rye. This one was a private barrel by the Unseen Hand. They're actually out of Naismiths in Appleton. It's like it's a legit market. Okay, like when you go there, they do have a little bit of everything. It's small, but everything they got today, they're getting in fish, crab legs, making like all sorts of not pizza sticks, but beef sticks. Just a neat store to go in. It's one of those things where like I came in for this and I left spending $100, and there's just neat stuff there. It's hard to pass up.
Went in for one breadstick.
I went in for getting a giant pizza, a pretzel, and then all of a sudden I ended up, with 2 pizzas and a steak. I don't know what the hell happened.
It's like Costco, man. $100 cover charge, no matter what you go in for.
This one was actually from Great Northern. This one is their straight rye whiskey, aged 6 years. These guys used, I believe they were smaller gallons. They weren't 53 at that point. So they were in Plover, Wisconsin, which it says on here, but they recently and finally opened up their new place in Stevens Point. It was just, they ended up switching leases and stuff, and it took a little while to get the new place moving. And I saw that it just opened, so congratulations to Brian Cummings and the whole staff there, because it's a neat story. They came across one of their mainstays right away was their Opportunity rum, which kind of fell into their lap by a mistake. That they got the opportunity to do so. Just neat stories. So this one significantly darker. Oop, let me spin it one more. Than the pepper on this one, and Where are you here? 125.2 is the proof. So just a little step up from the last one.
Also, I don't think we could have made a harder left turn and stayed in rye than these two whiskeys off the nose right now. This is wild coming off of that last one.
Yeah, it's a little more intense.
Like, Mike was looking down and you were talking, so you didn't see my face when I first nosed this, but it was flabbergasted. Like, I was just like, what?
Ooh, sorry. Hold on here. I'm having a hard time. I'm not getting sick. I'm having a hard time nosing, getting some stuff today.
So this one smells proofier than the Old Pepper, despite being like, what, 3 proof higher?
Mm-hmm. I'm getting more of like an herbally note off this one. Spice. Touch of like dry, a little bit of wet hay too. Like some sawdust. Mike, thoughts? Are you writing all yours down? Are you like note taking?
Yeah, no, I was writing stuff down, but I get where you're talking about, like with the hay and stuff, but that's similar. It's similar to me instead of just the hay. Saddle leather.
Okay, well,
What I was getting on the nose.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's leathery, but it's also got it's been in the barn a little bit, but it's like it's like if you had given this to me and said, here, nose this rye or nose this rum, I wouldn't be like, oh, there's no way that's a rum, because it smells really sweet too. I get molasses on the nose, but not like heavy molasses, but it's just a little. And again, second whiskey
trying to break himself right. I saw that.
This is wild.
Okay, let's hear your thoughts on that on the nose before we get into the taste.
Gosh. So there's funk in there, which is what threw me off so much, I think. So my first nose was nail polish, decomposing hay, fruit, wood, and like nutmeg, which is what blew my mind. And now I've gotten past the proof, and it took some of the funk away. And it's gonna go with, it's not raisin, but
like a plum or a prune. It's just
prune.
It's like this dark. It's this dark stone or dark fruit, but it's rich.
So yeah, now I'm getting kind of prune.
Yeah.
Still a little bit of nutmeg. The oak's coming through a bit. It's not like the last one where it was oak. This is more of the oak lactone where it's coconut and vanilla a bit.
Oh,
and
the coconut, like you're saying, is like when you get that inside like coating to like a chocolate candy.
Yeah, it's super. It's not coconut. It is coconutty, right? I guess I'll say. And then just something green. It's not necessarily mint. It's not necessarily like licorice. It's not necessarily dill. That might be kind of what like that hay turned into, more of a grassy note. But that's a wild ride to go in the nose in like 4 minutes.
It's the rye is kind of, it's not like, I would not guess it's Wisconsin rye, and it sure as hell is not MGP rye, but it's almost like some of the out east rye, where it does have that weird not weird, but it's just got a little that bitey funk to it.
Yeah, well, it's like an earthy, almost like a.
So is this
like
heirloom
like
rye or anything like that?
A cellar funk. I don't know if that one's on here per se, and that's my apologies. I used to know and I don't right now. I will add it to the bottom here.
This is just
because that's I want to believe yes, but I don't know which one, so I don't want to speak specifically.
All right, I'm gonna sip this because I've been nosing
right.
it too long.
Wow. It's like caramely, but you can feel like the heat build up if before you swallow, or typically that's after, And
that
then
does
it's
not match the nose
at all.
And it's kind of like a butterscotchy thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like butterscotch and cola and all that stuff, and then like, okay, I'll go back. If you handed one and said sip this, and I was like, and you said it was a rum, I wouldn't say you were wrong either. It's just very.
It feels like a toasted barrel to me.
I like this because it's funky. It's not funky as in off. I like it just because it's not rye. It's not okay. And not a knock. It's not 95.5 rye. It's not rye. It's not Bullet or Templeton or one of those other ones. It's interesting and different. Wow.
See on the nose, I get like
okay. Going back nosing it after drinking it, it changes that nose.
So I'm going to be 100% honest and slightly rude. I wasn't sure I was going to like this off the nose. I love this.
Yeah.
Well, it like you said, the whole cola-y other thing, like not that's left field from the nose. I wouldn't have even like going back. I get like a little vanilla and stuff, but nothing like that. Even now, afterwards, I don't get that on the nose.
Oh my gosh, the nose is completely different. What the?
Okay. Okay, I was making notes on it. I thought, can you imagine being on the pick for this, and everyone was like, "Well, I know, I like this one," and you just keep going, "Yeah, but what is up with that one?" It's just like there's something different about this. Unless all of theirs are like this, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like this a lot.
This one, when I had it, is on. I mentioned they had a bourbon, not a rye, a while ago. This hits on the quality of what that was when I had it, because that was one of the ones where not only because as one of my friends bought like 3 or 4 bottles, all my friends on a Friday night, who some of them were, placating me whiskey drinking, like I'd bring stuff over. Oh, hey. But they all went out and bought bottles. Like, oh, I got 2 or 3 bottles. I got 2 or 3 bottles of that. And I'm pretty sure we had most of whatever barrel that was. But this rye is on that same level. Was like it's an interesting ride right now. Like I could sit here with this for a while and be really like entertained.
I need to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah. Do they have more and have any more of this?
I can find out. They would be at Naismith's in Appleton. I have them holding a different bottle for me, so I can see if they still have this Great Northern pick.
Okay, available. I have to remodel my kitchen. Oh my god.
Yeah, I understand that too.
So, Mike said this tasted like a rum, and it made me think of my favorite rum of all time, which I don't know if you can see.
We can make Mitch.
So, yeah, you brought that to Stumpy's.
I did. So this is a 14-year-old rum. It spent 12 years in a bourbon barrel, 2 years in a rye barrel. So it is this absolutely gorgeous rum that has all those, traditional like caramel, fruit, like dark fruit, sugar notes, but then it finishes floral because of that rye barrel. And when he said it reminded me of rum, I was like, oh my God, I think I know the rum that it could remind me of. And it does. Like, it's insane. The rye from Great Northern has more fruit and baking spices in it than that rum does. But otherwise, super similar. Like, it is crazy.
That's awesome. Because I'm intrigued about. But that's neat to get more of those notes out of that than the other way around. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
But like caramel, like sugar wise, like they're similar proofs. Like the cola note, all super similar. Wild.
I love how that cola note was hidden at first. Like going back and hunting for it, you can maybe find it, but I still don't. The first thing I get is caramel molasses. Brown sugar.
That's great. And going back and nosing, it's like every time that I go back nosing it after having had sips of it, that nose just it's so different. This is fun. This is like really, really fun.
This is why I
got
like
leather
whiskey,
depth
right?
too on the nose again. Like I went back, and the thing that hit me now, like going back on the nose this time, was the leather note, not the other notes right away. What was that? I wasn't even higher or lower. That was the same one. That's weird.
Dude,
That's neat though. That's a total fun one.
So now when I'm nosing it, I'm just getting like flour, mild licorice, or flowers, not like baking flour. Like if you imagined like making the world's weirdest, like licorice and flour with a bit of dill at this point, like scrub, I guess, for your face or something, like it's insane. It's lavender, like maybe chamomile, like what is going on?
You said chamomile. I was getting
self-care tips
chamomile
from
oatmeal
Mitch.
at some point in there too, because it's got this earthy, like kind of richness to it. And I'm not going to say it feels like you're chewing it, but
I really like nosing this after sipping it.
This is wildly good,
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm going to say. Just because it is wild the entire time I've been drinking this and nosing it.
Mm-hmm. And see, I had held off on this because I was having it with you, so it's gonna be one of those things where I might need to set this aside. It's a very good rye for Rye of the Year, even though it's January 7th when we're recording.
And now it's different again. It's lovely balanced tannins and like a hint of caramel. The molasses coming through more. The cola's buried. Like dill's coming out. Like
It's just messing with us the whole time. Oh my God.
Yeah, I feel toyed with.
This whiskey is why I like whiskey, because this is blowing my mind every time I drink it.
And does not drink at 62.6%.
No, I should probably calm down.
Which is
on that note, I'm
not a bad thing and not a great thing either.
Just have one more little sip here of that.
I will say preemptively, because I did grab my fourth glass, I do have my blend of all three of these sitting off to the side. So no pressure.
I'm working on it.
I'll take one for the team.
All right, just gotta try to get the right levels here. You know what? I just poured some of that. Let's do one of these. All right, it seems what happened here. Oh man, if you just say the empty glass when you're done finishing this, or just I have just a little bit left, that leather comes through a lot heavier. Like that saddle leather is thick when it's almost like an empty glass at the bottom.
I can see that now. Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess I haven't been involved with as much leather as y'all have.
Dude, you're from Kentucky. You don't live far from the track, man. Come on.
You have to. So there are two people that are familiar with horses: rich people and people who know how to gamble. I am neither, so I am not familiar with horses.
Well, the third type are the people that are kicked out of petting zoos, but we're not going to talk about them.
Oh, yeah, that one was real interesting. I like that one quite a bit here. And that's one of the few that I have a lot left of, which is nice, and it doesn't always happen. So, all right, here we got one left on the docket for today. This one is a Corn State Kings traditional sweet mash American Moonshine. It is a single barrel that they did charcoal filter. There's here I'll say this. Hold on, I gotta do. Hold on. Nope. It's a busy label, but it has all the information on it that you're ever gonna want. So I'm not gonna fault that.
This has what's the weird age statement on it?
Aged for 123 days in used Heaven Hills barrels. That's what it was. So not a long time, but a couple months, 3 months.
Not 124 days.
Well, hey, that's like I said, it's exact. I was going to say there's no arguing shit. I like that.
I know, it's just funny. It's just an odd
in a day.
Yeah.
62.5% alcohol by volume. This is batch 1, and it was bottled March of last year. It is 100% Iowa corn moonshine, aged in the Heaven Hills barrels like we talked about. And Corn City Kings is a collaboration between John Baker of Cat's Eye and Shane, the manager at Naismith's, the guy who picked the Unseen Hand barrels that we just had on the last one. So it's a collaboration between them, and they're being releasing, basically the 23 and 24 year after they've aged this further along, kind of the progress of what happens. So another one of those things, if you were doing like Ironroot did, like an evolution barrel where you see like how the progression hits and goes along the way. So
Peerless did something like that when they first opened. They did their new make 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. I wish I had bought it, but I did not have the money. So,
well, and there's some places that will do that if you're ever at like not just a tasting, but like an event where they'll have like a moonshine or new make. And then they'll have like a 1 or a 2 year, and then they'll have their 4 year at least, so you can see some of the progression happen. And a lot of times they'll give you the 2 year, and they'll be like, we like it, but we didn't put it out till 4 because you lose this note and this note, and they started to explain it. And I like seeing someone's thought process. Even in some instances where I didn't necessarily agree with it, I like to see the thought process of where that goes and stuff. So, excuse me.
So this is wildly different than the other two, right?
Yeah.
Yep. This one is a little bit more stringent, more. At first, it was alcohol-y and a little nail polishy.
Yep.
The second half, there's something on the second half though where I got down to like an earthy note.
So this definitely benefits from sitting in the glass a little longer. Like when you first pour it, it is proofy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super, super.
And I started a little later than yours, so let me swirl.
Also, I could have just burned all the nose hairs out of my nose by nosing too aggressively at the beginning. One of the two.
Well, compared to the other two, this one it definitely hits more like a moonshine for the 60-some% we're at. Like you can tell that coming in that it is not been aged long in the barrels.
But Mitch was right. When I first poured it and smelled it, it was like, whoa.
Yeah, like nail polish was the first thing I got. Maybe gasoline. But now that it's been sitting for a couple minutes, that's gone. So, like, it was intense.
Well, I guess that's what I first jumped into. Is that's like I said, it was like, but now I'm getting more of a how the hell did I do that? Like I went to nose and it hit my glasses and I got like a big drop of booze up on my nose somehow. I don't know what happened there.
That's called nosing aggressively.
Yeah, I've never nosed that aggressively in my life before.
Okay.
Like caramel.
Yeah, now,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mitch.
Sorry, I was about to say, like, now that I've gotten past the proof, like, I'm starting to pick up flavors, but that first nose was not a lot of flavor, a lot of proof, a lot of ethanol.
Pat, did you give us the neck pour on these?
Kinda, yeah. You're one of those people that believes in those issues. So yes.
So it simultaneously exists and doesn't exist, right? Because all it is the booze hasn't acclimated to or evaporated as much, right? So the moment you open it, it starts evaporating. So that first pour has none of that evaporation that has happened for every pour after that. So it is different. It's not because, it's been in the neck. It's just,
Oh, come on, it's
Yeah.
in the neck.
it hasn't evaporated yet at all.
It's just a dumb name.
Just
Don't ruin it for me. I like to tease people.
But
These
first
drastically
pour
different.
first pour is a better name than neck pour.
Yeah.
My issue with
If you
it is
just
the
leave
name.
it out for a
Yeah.
few minutes,
It'll
You're
do
good.
the same thing.
you just gotta. Sorry,
No,
I just had an argument about this with someone. I'm still a little heated.
Yeah, we like to push people over their edge in arguments, so we may.
My bad.
Was he? Wait. Were they arguing that it's not different at all, or were they arguing? What was their side of that?
Their argument was neck pours don't exist. If you taste the difference, you're an idiot. And
Oh, that's not
my
accurate.
argument
Oh,
was they do exist. They just don't exist in the way you think they exist. Don't call people idiots. You idiot.
well, I always said that first one was one that I wouldn't necessarily count as far as like reviewing and stuff. I'd always take that as just like a first drink or a first shot and be like, oh, that was interesting. I'm not gonna like go after that as far as the review for what I was doing. Because I did notice slight things, but like you said, not.
I mean, and it depends on the whiskey. Some of them, or the drink, some of them, like, very minimal differences. Others, you would not realize it's the same whiskey. Like, you'd be like, no. Like, I have definitive memories of this that don't match this.
Okay, I still get a little. It smells more, not like it's like a dusty corn. A little ethanol, nail polish. But almost like a multi corn. Like, there's like a musty earthiness to the corn that I'm not pegging yet. Okay, well, whatever. I'm gonna go on here.
Okay. The corn that I'm getting, and maybe this is it for you, or at least similar to, is like buffet or cafeteria style, where there's just the big tub of corn that's just been sitting there. Could have some thickness to it, could not. It's not mixed up or whatever, but you just get those vapors wafting off of that corn that's just sitting in that thing. It's got butter and probably corn syrup added to it, and God knows what else.
I want to see what you think. This one goes like left field on the taste from the nose for me too.
Okay. I'm not saying any of those nosing notes are bad things.
Whoa.
I'm gonna go back and get some flavor now, but that was not what I expected off the nose.
What
on
the
first
shit?
drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm
I
glad-
got a hint of that on my last smell before I got in there, but you need to let this sit in the glass
Yeah.
because holy crap.
Okay. Yeah. The flavor was just, I don't want to say distinctively different, but once again, like, it was like, if you're doing a ride, it was the roller first drop on the roller coaster. The ramp up was the sniffing, and the smell, whatever, and that first drop was just what you're like, whoa, what the fuck was that?
So, all right, here's how this one has gone for me. First nose, like nail polish and gasoline. Second nose, okay, it's finally starting to go away, and I'm getting some like funky corn notes. And then the funky corn notes developed. I finally got rid of like most or all the gasoline and the overwhelming majority of like the proof smell. The last nose, I finally got vanilla. And I was like, okay, so there's hope. Like, I love vanilla. And then I tasted it, and it starts just solid corn whiskey, goes to this lovely caramel balanced with light tannins. Like, Okay.
Yeah, it was
I'm super pleasantly surprised.
like the caramel for me was what, like, I was like, whoa, because it's there right away. Almost no butterscotch for me instead of caramel right now.
Because I didn't get any of that on the nose.
Mm-mm.
Like no tannins, no
Like,
caramel, no butterscotch. Wow.
And I didn't even really analyze the finish yet. So it's not heavy in the middle. The sides are a little numbing or tingling. I'm not going to call it numbing, but it feels like there's things happening. And that's where the flavor for me is happening, is where it's also making me salivate.
See, and I like the pepper, old pepper. I didn't really have too much expectations. I had expectations because when you mentioned the affiliation with Cat's Eye, like Cat's Eye does pretty. I like Cat's Eye, and so I had a kind of my own expectation that it's going to be good, and then that first nose is like, oh, it's like holding your glass of whiskey and your dog tries to smell it and they're like, no. It was just rough. But wow.
Yeah. So what is it? The master blender from Macallan blends off their nose. Like, thank God these people don't.
I'm surprised. I mean, I know it's a Heaven Hill, but I'm surprised how much, I'm going to say, I think the barrel affected it. I mean, that caramely, butterscotchy, toffee flavor is way thicker than I would have expected.
Heaven Hill used to have some really good distillers.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm wondering what the original tastes like in this. Like the legit, not 123 age. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So the wild thing is Heaven Hill does not leave wet barrels. Like they get what they want out. So.
Oh, that's true. I didn't mention that too.
I mean, like, it's not like a sherry cask where you're like, oh, they might have left a little in there to make it taste super good. They did not. There was no, extra bourbon slushing around in the bottom of this to help this along. This is 100% the talent of the distillers and like blenders and maturation guys knowing what they were doing. So I want to give them really big kudos based off of that.
All right, I need a little more. Yeah, I want to say one. You know what? I'm going to say the thing that I like about both of these is that they made themselves memorable in the ride. Like your question, like the first one, because I'm just saying because of the guy from May Smith is involved in both. Actually, all three, but. Both of them, they all had your flavor, your nose, and then when you hit the taste, it left turned. Like, I mean, not in the Great Northern, not necessarily bad. The Corn State, it just like, I mean, it torqued you in a different direction. Like, even if you might not be a fan of the flavors that you were getting, which I was, it's one of the ones you have to pay attention to, because how often do you get kind of pulled around? It doesn't happen often enough.
It makes me wonder how many other funky ones there are from Naismith's picks.
They do a wonderful. They're one of the places in my area that actually does a very good job of trying to look at craft distillers. I was going to say, no matter our state, yes, but other states as well. They do very, very well with their picks. There's actually an MB Roland that's there, and they did the very first. I don't want to call it very first, but did one of the early releases from Lone Elm. They got two of them. One was a wheat barrel, and the other one was a honey finished wheat barrel. And just when at first I heard they were coming, I'm like, just get them, just get them. They're another one as far as a ride and wheat whiskey. I'm like, they should land in most people's top 10, if not top 5, if you haven't had them before. So.
Lone Elm is what? Sorry. I love Lone Elm, and MB Roland has a super special place in my heart because they were the first smoked American whiskey I ever had. And I love MB Roland. Anytime anybody's like, MB Roland, I'm like, you're cool. I like you.
Well, that dark fired one, I'm betting, is the one you're talking about. And that was the first one I had. And I was like, holy shit, American smoke. I was like,
so I went a little overboard, and I bought the Black Dog, which is their new make that's been smoked. I bought the dark fired bourbon, which is their first use barrel. Then I bought the dark fired whiskey, which is the second use barrel. And then I found another whiskey that was the third use of that barrel. So I have like this wild progression of like new make, first barrel, second barrel, third barrel. And you get to see like what it comes off the still as and how much that barrel really helps it along and how much impact and like less filtering the next barrel, like each use does. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's actually
That's cool.
That is a neat thing.
Maybe y'all should stop by sometime.
I've allotted one trip to the Kentucky, Indiana area for 2023.
Next time I do come to Kentucky, I'm going to have less runaround time and more leisure time, so I will definitely hit you up.
Yeah, it's great because Patrick eventually, Muhammad came to the mountain.
I did,
but I had to go.
I went under the mountain. I went under the mountain
to Muhammad for Mike. And then Ben lives here in Kentucky now, and I've gone to the distillery he works at twice and still not seen him since he started working.
I don't think he actually works there.
He's so mean. I'll be like, hey man, how's it going? I stopped by work today. You there? No. Hey man. Hope to catch you sometime in the next decade or so.
Hey, well, some of the stuff I had at your house when I was there, I told Mike, I was like, I had to rule it out. I couldn't remember all the shit I had when I was at Mitch's house. And I'm like, and there's 2 or 3 of them. I know one of them was a compass box that should be on the list, but I almost don't feel safe about putting it on the list because that's not fair. I just remember it was fantastic. I can't remember tasting notes of that moment, but
I get folks to like me.
Everybody likes you anyway. That corn state, that's another one. If you find out if they have more.
I actually got to make a trip down there for that other one. So yeah, I believe they do, and they're not expensive for what it was for a 375 to try things. They also do, since you were mentioning, since this one was with Catside, distillery owner, they also do obtainium picks there in the 375. So there's a lot of range to try things there, which is neat. Like I said, they do neat picks. I was gonna say, as far as what most people in my area do, they step into some interesting stuff. Another Tattersall and a couple other things. So yeah, really enjoy that place.
Tattersall. So I bought the gin from Tatters. Is it Tattersall or Tattersale? I have no idea. Right?
I say Saul, but I am horrible at pronouncing things.
That is one of my favorite gins. It's a really solid London dry gin. Like, oh my gosh.
Ooh, London dry, and you're a fan. Okay.
I mean,
no, nothing wrong with that. I usually lean more like Western, or I don't know. There's been 2 I liked. I guess I like the one from Crooked Waters. I like their version of a London dry, so I should be quiet. I'm still leery. That's all. I'm still leery.
So when I went to Patoka Lake, I made my girlfriend stop by Spirits of French Lick, and I tried to bring a bunch of gins for Alan to try that I didn't think he had. So I brought that one, and Alan was like, "It's very kind of you, bye." So he pulled a bin. I was like, "Hey, it's so nice to see you." He was very gracious, but he had things to do. But his assistant was there, and I was like, "Do you want to try any of these?" And he was like, "Oh, yes." So I poured him. So I had some winter gins. So they have like spruce and just all licorice and anatols in them to kind of bring up more of a winter flavor rather than like the London dry super like spring.
More like a Nordic spin on things.
So that requires knowledge I don't have to answer.
Okay,
so
I don't know. It's just by the flavor profile. That's where I went. So we'll ask someone. I got an idea.
One of them's Boone County here in Kentucky. They have a spring and a winter, or Spring and winter gin. Spring's a little more, citrus, juniper berry forward, and the winter is like spruce and anatols, and it's very great. And the other one is out of Cincinnati. I cannot remember. 5 Stories, I think. But I thought I grabbed, they do a wet hopped gin. So they put hops in their gin basket, which is wild, right? Because hops are simultaneously bitter yet citrusy. So
yeah, it would really
works really well.
The varietal would play a huge role in that, man.
So I thought I grabbed that, but I grabbed their winter one, which smells London Dry, but then you drink it and you're like, oh, this tastes like a rye whiskey that you blended into gin, because the like licorice and like dill and mint are just forefront compared to the juniper.
That's crazy.
Interesting.
I interrupted Mike twice. I'm very sorry.
No, you're fine. I did one thing I did do. I went back to the pepper after having, because we had 2 really fun rides, and I went back to the pepper to give it a fair shake. It did change the pepper, and I was getting the mint and stuff like that. After having those, I was getting the mint that you guys got off the pepper. And I don't know if it's quite dill, but it's kind of like just a hint of the dill. But I definitely was getting the mint that I wasn't really getting before off of that.
Whoa,
man.
The mint is huge on that now.
That is like a spearmint toothpaste level of mint. Like,
yeah,
oh my gosh.
Aquafresh for a second. Wow. Okay.
But,
maybe I'm
you
mint
mentioned
sensitive.
I mean, yeah, I'm really not. But okay, if I can turn my stupid self around. My friend gave me this for my birthday. Talk about funky, because you mentioned like funky hops. I've had stuff from Amador before, and it was interesting. I mean, just nicely finished, is okay. But this, he went into the store and he's like, I want a whiskey for a whiskey person, but I need something kind of out there. And the guy goes, I got just the thing. And it's an Amador, and it's whiskey and hop flavored whiskey finished in Chardonnay barrels.
The Chardonnay sounds like an awesome way to cut the hops.
I mean, I've done more sharing with this, and tasting on it, but it is.
I didn't get a fucking bottle.
Well, maybe you will.
I'm just kidding.
But it is weird. It's just weird stuff. It's like because you get the hops. It's like, but you taste it and it's like you drank an IPA, but without having the side effects of drinking an IPA. And
we've had bad experiences with IPA whiskeys, so
this is not. This is totally not. I will add this to the list to send out. Mitch, would you like some of this?
I mean, I gotta try it. I hate to say it.
All right,
well, Mitch, back to this one.
So
I'm intrigued by whatever the hell that is.
I was impressed because it's funky, which is fun.
So when y'all come down, I have 4 distilled beers that you need to try. So 2 are from Wiggle, and apparently every year they distill a beer from a local brewery, and they are wildly different. Like, one is kind of a Belgian and one is a Scotch ale. Completely different flavor profiles. Absolutely amazing, every single
Scotch
one of them.
Ale has my attention.
Then I have 2 from Copper and Kings. So there's a local brewery that makes an imperial stout that they distilled. The first time they did it, they ran it through and they put it in a bourbon barrel with brandy heads. And it is the weirdest thing you've ever had, because it tastes like beer, brandy, and bourbon, never at the same time. So it just makes all these turns as you drink, and it's never the same turn, no matter what drink you take. So the first drink you take, you might be like, yeah, I can see the imperial stout. Oh, there's a little bit of grape in there, brandy influence, lovely vanilla coconuts. So we're going back to the brandy, back to bourbon. Oh, there's the beer sneaking back up. Next time you're like, oh no, this is totally a bourbon. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh no, there's a little beer like maltiness in there. No, it's bourbon. Oh, brandy, lovely grapes, raisins even. And every time you sip it, it does something different, and it is wild. I love it. If like Pat got some, I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember it, because it's just.
There were a couple things from Copper and Kings that I distinctively remember. Well, and like you said, and I will 100% agree with this. They have one of the most aggressive and good barrel programs that I have ever seen.
Especially
Okay?
for finishing.
It's fantastic. Their barrel
I
program is
easily
great.
have over 20 of their barrel finishes because it's just everyone changes it so intensely, and I've never had a bad one. But they did it a second time, and they didn't put brandy heads in it. They just aged it in a traditional barrel, and it is one of the mintiest things I've ever had in my life. Like, it was the mintiest thing I'd ever had. Ed tried some, and he's like, I love this because of the mint, but I've had maybe one or two things that were mintier. And then I took it up to a bar here in town because they said they had the mintiest thing that they'd ever had, which was some Dusty made by Heaven Hill. And I was like, this is the mintiest thing I've ever had. What do you think? And they were like, this is mintier. And I was like, cool, I don't want it.
So,
Like for them, it's like,
those,
no matter what we say, we want you to buy this $70 shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably like $10 or $15.
Oh.
And I'm just weird when I go to places. I'll be like, hey, have you ever gone out in the parking lot and tried whiskey with someone by their trunk? And they're like, yeah, you want to do it again? It's like, all right, let's go.
So there's these guys, they will be coming up on the show, but heard them on Distillers Talk, Edelbrand, and they are over near the St. Louis area. It's a family-owned operation. The dad of the family, he is Swiss, does things in the Swiss style, lots and lots of brandies. But they have 3 different beers that they get. They get the beer mash, and they from a brewery around St. Louis area, and then they distill that. I ended up buying one because I couldn't get them all, but this one it's basically a Belgian white that's distilled. But they take this Belgian white, and then let's see. I'll make sure I want to say this specifically correct. So they get stuff from the Urban Chestnut Brewing Company. And then this is winter white ale mash finished with an infusion of earthy coriander, sweet orange peel, and star anise. And and you definitely get the white the winter beer, but then it's also like, is this a gin? I mean, it's just kind of weird, how they did that. But the other one was they had an IPA, and it took all the things that I don't like about an IPA out. It's just I'm not a beer drinker anymore, but there's just stuff about IPA that it's just like, oh God. And,
I was never a fan, so you're never gonna hear.
So, but anyway, that was good. But the other one, Russian Imperial Stout, and it is, it's so stinking good. They're super nice people. I will pour the Edelbrand for you guys also. It's an extremely slim bottle, but it's super good stuff.
So, but speaking of distilled beers, real ale, right? Like they use 2 different beers, sans hops, to make their stuff. And the first time I had it down in Texas, it blew my mind because I got banana clove, just like a traditional Belgian, and then they have a Scotch ale, and I was like, yes, rich maltiness, like this makes perfect sense. And it was simultaneously yeasty yet aged, because Texas, you can age a whiskey in fucking 3 minutes. But it was like that, probably more than any other whiskey I had my first time in Texas showed me like what Texas could do, because they took something I'd never had anything like and did it well.
I remember when we first
I've been a fan.
had some of their stuff, and both the things we had, I was like, damn, that's pretty impressive for, how about this, for not hearing a bunch of ruckus, which is difficult in Texas, because I feel like there are a couple other states like California where you don't hear a lot of, no, there's like fucking like,
no, it's just, ruckus is on the state flag of Texas.
Just like, oh, there's 72 new distilleries, and you're like, oh, shit, I had a hard time keeping track of the 400 that were there before. So, there's just a lot, and it's a big space to cover. So in today's climate where it's starting to get almost micro distillery, like not just small, but I mean by coverage of distance and area, like you have to really break through to get some space outside of your state or actual shelf space in other states. So it becomes a little hyper regional. But I remember when we had them, I was like, people should have said something. You know, how is this not? How are you talking about Texas and this isn't one that came up? You know, like.
Yeah. So, all right. So speaking of going to bars and being like, hey, do you have time to drink by my trunk? I went to, so Louisville now has America's biggest American whiskey bar. So the rules are no beer, nothing clear, and nothing foreign. So they only have American whiskey and wine. That's it. If you want something else alcoholic, go somewhere else. That's just the way it is. So I went there, and everything's organized by state in their menu, which is, you know, a book, right? Because they're the largest American whiskey bar. I got to Texas, and they had Balcones and Garrison Brothers, and that was it. And I was like, hey guys, like, I don't know if you know this, but like, there's a really good whiskey scene in Texas that's not these two. Like, these are the big names, but there's like smaller craft distilleries that are killing it. And
only won World Whiskey of the Year the last 3 years.
Like, and they were like, really? I was like, yes. And they're like, how do you know that? I was like, I have like 50 Texas whiskeys at home. And they're like, well, that's crazy. Why would you have 50 Balcones and Garrison Brothers? And I was like, okay, so I have like 3 of those. The rest is something else. And they're like, dude, the Texas doesn't make good whiskey. Sorry. So I was like, would you let me prove you wrong? And they're like, okay, what are you going to do? So I was like switching jobs.
I was gonna say,
so I had nothing but free time.
Truck.
I literally went home and like got every Texas whiskey I had, put it in my trunk, and came back up like a random Wednesday or Thursday. I don't remember what day. And I was like, I'm here to prove you that Texas whiskey is good. And they were like, all right. So we have this little side area that you can set up. And I brought 4 boxes of whiskey in. And they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I was like, no, like, some of these are bad. I will completely agree with you. Some of these are okay. Some of these are amazing, though, and you need to try those. And I poured like the great ones for the like one of the owners and the whiskey guy and their head chef, and they were like, oh, this guy's not wrong, actually. And they were like, can you go back and get some of these from Texas? So I went back the last time trying to pick some of them up and forgot that Texas doesn't sell alcohol on Sundays. So
yeah,
really
Texas
laws.
Yeah, it's getting better though. Come on now. In the last 3 years, the climate in general has gotten better. Though I can't get anything from Sealbox right now. That's a Wisconsin sucks state in that.
Hey, maybe you could send them to a buddy in Kentucky that they'll ship
or
to.
Missouri. I mean,
and then visit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have one with the wife, and the way things are, I get one visit to Kentucky this year. I've already allocated that because I know more would be asking for too damn much.
That is fair.
So, that's true. All right, I got a guest in the room.
Have you guys done the blend yet?
I did the blends right here.
I'm nosing it right now. It's weird.
It is not the end on the taste. It is not the sum of its parts for me. But I'm going to go back to the nose.
No, but it's not bad either.
I get more cola out of this than I do anything somehow. I don't know how that happened.
I get a lot of cola on the nose.
So my first sniff
I've
was cola.
sipped it like 3 times, but yeah.
It's not the sum of its parts, but it's also not less necessarily than the 3 parts. It's just, I would not believe you that these 3 whiskeys were blended into this, is kind of what I'm saying. Like, I can kind of pick out some of them, but
it's a little, the flavor though kind of does this a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, it's like sharp and quick. It's like boom, 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 boom. You know, it's not like the combination is not a free-flowing combination of flavors. It's boom, 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 boom. You know, like I get like 3 or 4 quick hits right away, and then it starts to like trail off. Neat. The more I go back, the more interesting it is. I think it's just because of the torque that the last 2 had on them. You know, on the flavor, like the cola on the nose, it has to come through between the last 2 because I'd say the Great Northern because I wasn't getting cold on the flavor till then.
Yeah, interesting.
So I added about 12 drops of that rum.
Oh,
And that
God.
flattened it out like it's wild.
You added rum to it?
I mean, it's that rum finished.
Well, you had it, so that's fair for our show. You know, if you had it.
It's also like 64.6 proof or percent
So-
alcohol. So like this wasn't like proofing it down or anything.
I was gonna be like, so it fits the bill for the show. It was nothing under 60 today.
Which is wild, guys.
Sorry, having internal discussions over here. All right, so
I should not have added that.
should
It's still good. Like it flattened it out, right? Like all of that that you were talking about, it just kind of went. So now the transitions are smoother, but they're not as interesting.
It's not as punchy and exciting. Yeah. So I don't know. The old pep for me, grand scheme of things, old pepper was all right. I think it could have used another like layer for me to really kind of bump it over the top. The last two both had a hell of a turn on the taste. I'm gonna say I'm gonna put 2 today as the Corn State Kings one, just because the Great Northern was so much richer in my mind. Just richer, bolder, had more flavors to it compared to the Corn State. Obviously, it should, but both of them, the flavor, fucking, a fun ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys give your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the Corn State and the Great Northern, for lack of a better term, outclassed the Old Pepper. If it was just Old Pepper, I think it would have been fine. But it was just, and it was probably good that you did the Old Pepper first. But then, because still, it was just those two crazy rides. It was fun. I definitely appreciate those picks.
I'm pretty much the same way. Like the Old Pepper is a solid kind of traditional, almost 95.5 MGP style rye. But the Great Northern for me, that's why I drink whiskey, right? That crazy ride where you're like, out from the nose, you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to like this. And then it's magical. And it takes you on different rides every time you sip it. And the Corn State Kings did something similar, but from the nose, I was like, I am not going to like this. And then I ended up really liking it. And that's the only reason to me, it came in second. If I had kind of liked the nose, it would have been so hard to decide just because of it was. I mean, corn whiskey is obviously a little different than rye, and apparently I just today
I agree.
Hit all the spots.
It like you said, it was the nose, like that first hit of the nose, because that's when I went into it after you guys had already kind of smelt it, let it sit, was a bit strong. Like as you let that kind of trail off, you let that sit for like say even 2 to 5 minutes. Major difference in the nose and the way you could get into it. But like the caramel on that is what fucking shook me. Like you can go back and replay it. They're talking. I'm like, what happened?
So I still have the slightest bit left in my glass, and nosing it, like all the things I hated are gone now, like the super ethanol punch. But now it just smells funky, like it's corn funk, barn funk. Like it's weird. Like if you just gave me that, I'd be like, this is a weird whiskey. And then I drank it and I was like, this is a good whiskey. So it was quite the interesting trip.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. So I didn't want to put it out there right away, but it is kind of all things that were coming out from Naismith's. The Old Pepper was one of the ones that was up for a barrel pick of things, and the one I think I liked the most of the ones that they had. I don't know if that's the one they went with. I believe so. But I was gonna say, it's one of the places where it's like when people ask me where would you go in Green Bay, my sad statement is there are a couple places, but I'm going to Appleton if I'm going to get like a barrel pick. So They do a really nice job with what they're picking, and it's not always ryes and bourbons. Every now and then it is like an off spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, like you said, like a gin or something like. I don't know, but if I'm gonna try one, I guess I'm gonna go with, maybe it's because I found people whose flavor profile is a little more exciting, like mine, rather than, like going for something that has a bland, safe bourbon or rye or something that's got a little more excitement to it. And I would rather try like 3 or 4 things and be wrong once and be like, damn, on 3 of them, than just be continually safe.
What I'd like to try a Naismith pick of the Old Pepper.
Well, that one, whatever the pick should be coming up. I was gonna say I know they're beginning one at some point. I don't know if that one's there yet right now. But no, they have some interest. I'll let you go. Next time I go down to pick up the MB Roland, I'll let you know it's all down at the stop, because that's where I stopped on the way back from little whiskey fest when Kevin and the Ewalds came. You were supposed to come, but life happened. We have to get you out of Kentucky sometime, Mitch.
So there's this super cool thing called vacation and money, and I have little of both. So unfortunately, all my money is tied up behind me. And I get 2 weeks of vacation a year, and I have a girlfriend whom I love, so I would like to spend time with her.
That's fair.
So it's one of those things where she actually said she wanted to go to Wisconsin last month. So I think I might be able to swing it, but it might be like
the weekend of May 20th.
4-day weekend type thing.
That's the weekend I'm telling you to come. May 20th.
Is that
Distill America is that weekend is when that's supposed to be. I believe. I'll have to get updated on the dates, but if you're coming, that's one to at least hit in Madison. And then, to be honest, it's cool because it's only a couple hours long, and if you can do stuff at night before, after, it just kind of fits into the pocket of the day then, which is pretty cool.
So the next issue is, do I drive forever so I can bring a trunk full of explosives in the form of alcohol with me, or do I fly because I don't want to drive the 14 hours and not bring anything?
Fine either way.
Because Kevin drove it. It was like 8 or 9 hours.
Oh,
so well, that's good. And we were further up left is where we were a little bit, by an hour and a half or so for that.
Oh yeah, so might be 8 or less.
Could be, but no, just mind. So on the way back from that trip is when I had basically a trunk full of booze in like a tote or two and samples, and we went in and started trying things. You have some of this, try this. You want this? Well, try that. And people were wandering in. I'm like, yeah, here. A little bit. Well, this is a sample for like, what's your opinion on what you're having. It was just neat because, like I said, they do a lot of different picks between the 2 different groups they have going through there, and they've all been. They're the ones who did that lacrosse, where it was a light whiskey they made and then aged it in a rye barrel afterwards, and. For what at 70, I believe it was 71%. It did not taste like 50 or less, and it really pulled more from the rye barrel than I would have ever expected at that point. For what we had in light whiskeys, which I did enjoy at that point, but nothing where you had that extra, little punch to it. So
I'm really weird. I'm spoiled for choice here in Kentucky, right? We have a few distilleries. I haven't even been to all of them yet. I feel so terrible. And then we have, the Bourbon Festival. I haven't gone in years. Like, when you're just so inundated with it.
Well, in your state too. That's the thing is, like, you don't have one. Throughout the year, you must have 8 to 10 things.
Yeah, so we've got Bourbon on the Banks, the Bourbon Festival, the Bourbon Gala, like...
Well, there's ones in winter and stuff too. Because I looked, I was like, well, there's stuff going on in February still.
I know that they've made changes to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival since I went there.
Yes.
And the timing I went there maybe wasn't the best time. But Bourbon on the Banks, bang for the buck. That reminded me so much of Distill America. How it was done, the cause, how it was laid out. how everybody worked, where everything was there. There was no theatrics, no show to it. Everyone was there to try stuff, to check things out. Great selection. It was just a really cool festival. I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Well, they have the same backbone. We're not going to charge you a lot for being here, just enough to pay for insurance, and we want you to showcase your stuff, not us
Right.
be the focus. And
Right.
anytime that happens, that's fantastic. If it's 10 to 12 distilleries, or if it's 90, and it's just how much water you have to drink in a day.
Oh my god.
or hey, one of the greatest things ever. I met Mitch one day as we were going out to distilleries. It was the Copper and Kings Day, and it started out with him bringing me one of those little liquid IV packets. This is the way you start out your day. No, every people give you shit. That is a
They're not bad. They're not bad.
It's a fantastic way for your bus tour, whatever you're doing. Even if you're going out at night at some of those places where it's like, I am gonna hit four or five distilleries. Say you're in Louisville, you can walk through that and no problem. And if you're actually trying things, hell yeah, have one of those to start off the day, and then don't forget to fill in water. It's not like you can give that up after you have that, but it makes a significant difference in how you'll feel later that day.
How did you feel after that?
I got on the plane just fine. I might have still had a buzz on, including your stop, but I mean, I was good. I was not inebriated. I just had probably like a little healthy buzz at that point.
So
But I didn't feel bad or shitty. By later that day, I was, I didn't feel like I had been drinking all day, nor as much as I had. So I did make my wife go pick up a 25-pack on Monday when I got home. I'm like, this is just in case. This is fantastic.
So that's the thing for me. I drink them and I don't get a hangover. Like, it's just that little extra little bit you need.
And Mitch has not been paid for this, nor have we.
Right. So I love them. I bought 3 packs at Costco because $100, cover charge. And they have like the hydration multiplier and then like the energy and immuno support, and who cares? But like, you drink one, it doesn't taste super bad. And if you just drink water throughout the night, you're going to wake up the next day and be like, I mean, I know I drank all day yesterday, but I'm also in my 30s and I don't feel like death, so like worked great for me. So,
No, and then that was just it. It was like, like you still felt, you didn't feel like at that point where I'll be honest, I'll say like you dry out. Like there's a point where it's like, I've had too much. I didn't have enough water. If you at least ate, you felt okay. But if you hadn't, you start feeling your whole body like, oh, this is going to go downhill. It's still going downhill. I haven't had any water yet. The fuck? Sorry. A little mini incident there. Everything's okay.
But yeah. So now when folks apparently not, he had to mute himself, but when folks come over, like I normally greet them with like a bottle of water and a liquid IV. And I'm like, if you're over here to drink, like you need to start with this.
Yeah.
Plus the cool thing is if you all start with the same thing, all your palates are starting from the same place, right?
It's true. That's true.
We can nerd it up in the whiskey scene that way, right? Instead of just being like, we're old and we can't drink more than 2 without feeling it.
I'd like to think I can get to 4 or 5, but then at that point, what's coming. So, all right. Well, we've been on for holy shit, almost an hour and a half, and that's good because I'll say it. Old Pepper good, but the other two worth the time we spent on them, and I don't care. Lightsaber, Mike's fan only lightsaber page is interesting. How could we not have gone over that?
It's called "Where's My Lightsaber."
Oh no!
Oh boy! Okay, now that you've earned your fan only site, we'll move on. But no, I was extremely pleased with the last two. Oh, like I said, Old Pepper solid. Nothing to say bad about it, especially at 60%. But the other two at that same around proof point had a little bit more ride, and the rye was, like I said, deeper, richer. That pruny note. There's some neat stuff going on. Sometimes the color it is in the does have a little effect on it. comparatively to the other ones. So, we, like Mike said, there are some other shows coming up, but I think we're gonna get Mitch back on here if you're okay with that. We got some Santa Fe spirits we're gonna do, and I think Mike's gonna send out stuff he's been hoarding. He says he is getting like
I will. Yeah,
fucking keeping your shit.
I'd love to come back on. Y'all are fun. Good folks.
No, Ben just keeps my stuff.
Well, I mean, I'd offer to get it from him and ship it to you, but I also cannot find Ben.
We're gonna have to find an emissary that can do this shit.
My bottles could be at one of a couple of houses, so who knows, but
dude,
I just want to try the Jimmy Red Bens. That's my big one.
I think there's still some left at Allen's, but I couldn't bring it.
I've got a
we
whole
had
bottle.
Tried some. I shared some at Bourbon's Bistro. Then I just didn't feel right bringing bottles in my hand to bars the rest of the evening. So
that's because you're supposed to put it in the trunk.
I didn't have a trunk. I was with an Uber.
Wow.
It's like I was like, hey, can I get in? No, I'm gonna sit on your porch. So it's like we're gonna. I love the trunk full of booze. I'm just gonna say it's highly underrated. If you have not been that person, that's been that. I've been that. Mitch has been it a few times that I've seen. It's exciting when someone's like, you think it's whatever, it's like poof, and you're like, oh, I gotta pay attention.
Well, it's not as classy as the antique doctor's bag like John Wettle has.
Ooh, okay, that's okay.
I need to see that.
Yeah,
that's
especially with John's whole look. I mean, come on.
That's true.
But I'd
be concerned he's pulling out some ether or some shit.
The old antique leather doctor's bag. You open it up and it's like.
So I've started something new. My uncle passed away and he was a lawyer, so I got his old briefcase. So now that holds cigars. Oh. And then I have a leather wine case that I just stuff with liquor more than it should hold, to the point that like I carry it and I'm kind of like leaning that way. And I just show up with both of those now. And it's like, how's it going? And people are like, okay. Most people don't bring luggage when we hang out. And then I open it and they're like, oh, it's going good. How are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I gotta hop off. I have some excited people here just outside screenshot that they're demanding some time. But like I said, Mitch, we're excited to have you back on. See, that's just what I mean.
Love hanging out. I wish I could do it on Mondays. My girlfriend, we got the last Monday's show, and my girlfriend was like, "These guys are fun." It was the first Monday I'd had off in a while.
So, okay, he's starting to pull bottles out of bottles. Okay, we got to end the show. He's underneath me grabbing. Hey, that's an expensive bottle. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's all right. At least he's interested in the right stuff, folks.
That's right. Grab the fireball, Gavin.
I don't have that. Yeah, I don't want to give him that. I don't want to get him hooked on that. I'm hoping that first one I got was the rye from Leopold Brothers, their very first release. James has still got my bottle. Hopefully that's the first bottle I share with him. Not the first thing he's going to have, because but I had a life beforehand, and let's be honest, he's not going to fall far from the tree. He's probably going to have some fun before I break that bottle up. So, but that's the one I got set aside for him. Hey, okay. Stay there, please. All right. Remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Let's get into it.
All right, we got to do the outro.